Hello, happy Halloween, and welcome back to another episode of Finklecast. I tried my very best to have an episode out last week, but it just didn't happen considering that the House of the Dragon episodes come out so late on Sunday night. It was 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, and I wasn't able to record an episode to have out on Monday. But it works out for the best because now I get to have an episode for Halloween. And after the House of the Dragon episode, there really wasn't anything else I'm going to be talking about, so I might take a couple week hiatus. But even though this is my last episode probably for a couple of weeks, and after I get done talking about House of the Dragon, there are still a few other things I want to go over, like the Modern Warfare 2 campaign that I beat, and a couple other things. Now, since I'm a whole week late, I think it's time to get into the House of the Dragon. Episode 10, the conclusion, the finale, was a very interesting way for this season to go out. In Episode 9, King Viserys finally died after 8 whole episodes of clinging to life. Finally, he died, and we saw everyone in the kingdom and how they were dealing with his death and how they were putting Aegon on the throne, despite the king's wishes for Rhaenyra to be queen. The week between episode 9 and 10, there have been many theories. People are saying that it was Rhaenyra that he was talking about. People are also talking about how it's supposed to be maybe Jon Snow, the prince that was promised, and he names him Aegon. I could be fully misunderstanding that entire scene at the end of episode 8, but I'm pretty sure he was talking about Jon Snow. At the end of episode 9, Rhaenys got her dragon and made a statement, and she almost burned alive the entire royal family, but instead flew to Dragonstone to Daemon and Rhaenyra. In episode 10, she goes and she arrives and she is telling them the bad news, saying that the Queen Alicent has put her son Aegon on the throne, and now everything is on the brink of war. Of course, like every episode of this podcast, you have reached the point where spoilers will be said. If you do not want to hear any spoilers, please pause, come back later, but now let's continue. Now, I guess I don't pay enough attention in some of these shows at times because I did not know that Rhaenyra was pregnant. At the very beginning of this 10th and last episode, it was a wild scene. Apparently, she was pregnant, and when she got the bad news, and it seems like it induced an early labor for her and the child. I will not get into the gruesome details of what happened, but if you watch the episode, it gets very, very gruesome with her pushing out the baby and the handmaids, saying, "Oh, let us help you." And she just says no and declines all help. She then pushes out the baby, and you could tell that the baby is not supposed to be out this early. And I will admit, I looked away multiple times from the scene because, in Game of Thrones and House of the Dragon, there are gruesome deaths, people getting their heads chopped off, people burned alive, but this scene had me turning my head away. No, I'm not sure if the bad news just made her in so much pain and so much stress that the baby just came early, or if she just didn't want to have this baby, that she needed to be ready for anything, be ready for war, that she used all of her strength to push out this baby weeks, maybe a month early, so she could be ready to go to war. I don't know if that's how drastic this scene was, or if it literally was just her not able to keep the baby in because of her stress going so high. Very confusing scene. I need to go back and watch it, as I need to go back and watch the entire season over again, but that was a crazy opener to this final episode. It then comes to the funeral of her baby, and everyone is there at Dragonstone, and one of the twins that was in episode 9 hunting down Aegon when he was missing within King's Landing shows up with a bag, and he kneels before Daemon and Rhaenyra and says, "I devote myself to you. I am your knight." And he presents King Viserys' crown to Rhaenyra. And then the rest of the episode is just preparation for a potential war. Rhaenyra does not want war. She wants to do what her father would have wanted and to try to keep the peace at all costs. Daemon, on the other hand, wants war. He thinks this is an outrage, that this entire thing was an act of war. Putting Aegon on the throne was an act of war against them. So he wants war when Rhaenyra is trying to keep the peace. And the rest of the war council, everyone else, and her advisors, they also want war. And she's trying to calm everything down before there are hundreds of thousands and millions of needless deaths all over the kingdom. What caught me off guard was the sea snake. I thought he was dead. I thought he was missing at the stepstones. And all of a sudden, he just shows up in a bed, alive. And Rhaenys is there, coddling him and making sure that he's okay. And they have a little bit of an argument, and he's saying, I admit that I was wrong. I admit that my drive to acquire the throne put things in a bad light and ruined this marriage, and all these things that he was saying. And I'm just sitting there thinking, where did he come from? I thought he was dead, and they explained nothing. They didn't explain how he got there. He just showed up out of nowhere, and now he's there. So Rhaenys is trying to convince him that, listen, regardless of what Rhaenyra did with your son and how things ended like that, she is trying to keep this kingdom together when everyone else wants war. So then he goes out there and he hobbles out with a cane and he speaks with Rhaenyra, and he, long story short, devotes himself and his ships and his army and his navy to her cause. Next, Otto Hightower arrives with an envoy from King's Landing to try to find peace terms. Here's a treaty: either kneel to the new king of the Seven Kingdoms or die. And Daemon's there with some of his knights, and he's like, you know what, I'm about to fight. Let's do this. I'm going to chop all your heads off. And then Rhaenyra flies down on her dragon, just like in, I think, the first or second episode of the entire season. But this time, instead of trying to convince Daemon not to do something against the king, she's actually on Daemon's side, and Otto is not. And she is discussing why this is happening. This is not legitimate. And then Otto pulls out a page from a book that was torn out in the beginning of this season and tries to pull on the heartstrings of Rhaenyra to try to pull out some of the long-lost memories she has with the queen, as they were friends before all of this ever happened, and trying to find some kind of way into her mind to make her kneel before Aegon. After this, Daemon and Rhaenyra go back to doing what they were the entire episode, which is trying to figure out who their allies are. Is it the Starks? Is it the Lannisters? Is it the Baratheons? Is it the Velaryons? Is it anybody in this kingdom are their allies? They have it pinpoint to a few, and they're trying to send out messages to these other kingdoms, trying to find out if they are truly their allies. At this point, they are getting ready to send messengers out to two places in specific, which are Winterfell and Storm's End. Now, obviously, we have seen Winterfell, which is the home of the Starks, but we have not seen Storm's End. We have heard about it in passing many times within Game of Thrones, but Storm's End is where the Baratheons reside. This is where her two sons volunteer to fly on Dragonback, which is faster than ravens, to deliver these messages and to see if the Starks and the Baratheons will honor their oath to her. Now, what's kind of funny is that the Starks and the Baratheons are the ones that in the future will host and will drive the rebellion to take out the Mad King Targaryen right before Game of Thrones. So this is a little bit interesting. Rhaenyra bids her sons, good luck, and sends them off on their mission to deliver the messages to the Starks and the Baratheons. We do not see where the eldest son goes. We just know that he goes to Winterfell, but we do see where the youngest son, Luke, goes to Storm's End. As he arrives, it's raining, and he flies in. The dragon lands, but you see the one and only, the very large dragon that Prince Aemond conquered and took over for himself and lost his eye for. So already we know that Prince Aemond is there to see where the Baratheons' loyalties actually lie. Is it with Rhaenyra or is it with King Aegon? Already you can see on Prince Luke's face that he is not ready for what's about to happen. Once he set eyes on that dragon, he realized that there's going to be a fight coming. Before leaving on this messenger quest, Rhaenyra made her sons promise they would not do any actions of war, that this is a messenger quest only. They are not warriors, they are messengers. Prince Luke then walks in with his letter to present to the Lord of Storm's End, and you see Prince Aemond to the side talking to some lady, and you realize this is when things are going to get dicey. The letter is then presented by the Maester to the Lord of Storm's End. The Baratheon reads the letter and is just insulted that he needs to be reminded of his oath, that there is nothing presented to him for this, that he is just to be reminded that he is loyal to Rhaenyra. The Lord Baratheon then points out, on the other hand, that Aemon comes bearing gifts, that for his loyalty to King Aegon, there will be a promise of marriage to, I believe, Aemon to one of his daughters, or maybe King Aegon to one of his daughters. So he has a gift from the king, whereas Rhaenyra is not giving anything, just a reminder that you swore an oath to me, you are loyal to me. And he does not like that. He's disgusted by it, and he just throws away anything of loyalty to her. Once the meeting is concluded, Prince Luke turns around and says that I'll relay this message back to my mother, but then Aemond is not done. He wants something, and we all know exactly what he wants. He wants the eye that was taken from him. So he tries to get that out of Prince Luke. He keeps telling him, look what I have. I want my eye. You owe me something. And you see that Prince Aemond has this shiny blue glass eye in place of his real one. And he keeps taunting him, and he draws his sword, and he's saying, I want my eye. And he throws a knife at Prince Luke and says, take it for me and give me your eye. He's not done with this kid yet. So then the Lord Baratheon says, there's not going to be any fighting in here. He came as a messenger. Take this outside, kind of thing. So Prince Luke runs to his dragon, hops on his dragon, and flies away. And then we all know that Aemond hopped on his gargantuan dragon to hunt Prince Luke down. Prince Luke is flying within the storm and within the clouds and the rain, and he can't see anything. You see him looking around for a good 2 minutes, and then the tank of a dragon just comes out of nowhere, and Aemond is laughing and shouting, I want your eye! Give me my eye! And he's shouting at him, and literally all he wants is the eye. And he's probably trying to just torture this kid's mind and trying to scare the crap out of him. But then the most crazy thing happens. These dragons start disobeying the riders and fighting each other. The dragon that Luke is riding then blows fire all over the large dragon's face, and then the large dragon starts going after the smaller dragon. Now, I apologize, I do not know the names of these dragons. I know that all these dragons have their specific names, but I'm trying to keep it together to remember the names of the characters themselves. But the riders are yelling at their dragons to stop going after this person, stop doing this, stop doing that. And then you see Luke go up out of the clouds and into the sun, and you don't see where Aemond is. And then out of nowhere, Aemond's dragon just comes straight underneath Luke and just totally splits the dragon in half and devours Luke. Absolutely speechless. You then see Aemond flying on his dragon, and he's looking back to the remnants of the dragon just falling down out of the sky. And then you see him turn and pan to the screen, and he's just like, oh crap. That was not supposed to happen. If war wasn't going to happen, it's most certainly going to happen now, and it's all my fault. Basically thinking, what am I going to say? How am I going to explain this? Am I going to own this and say this was a plan? Or am I going to say my dragon did it? And you can just see the wheels turning in his head. Like, how am I going to cover this up? This is a big no-no. And it was just a great final thing for this episode. It was wild. I was not expecting it. Even though I heard some spoilers that someone was going to die, I didn't think that's who was going to die. It was crazy. They then cut to the final scene of Daemon walking into Rhaenyra and relaying the message to her. You don't hear any words. You just hear music. And you see them both turn to the fire, and you see her hunch down and hold her stomach, and you can tell that she's crying. And then she does this slow turn to the screen, and she has this hateful, vengeful face, and tears are coming down her face, and you know at that moment, there is no peace. This is not going to be a peaceful end. This is going to be a bloody war. And then the season ends, the episode ends, and now we have to wait until season 2. I have to give it to this show. I did not think the show was going to get this good. I'll be honest, and I'm going to stick to what I said at the beginning of this show, is that it was a little slow. It was very repetitive for the first 3 episodes. It was just another dramatic argument between Rhaenyra and Viserys, and it just wasn't the best thing I had experienced in my life. It wasn't awful. I still enjoyed the show. But once we reached when Rhaenyra was older and we reached when they had kids and stuff, that's when things started to pick up. And we started to get really into the thick of the drama and the thick of the show. And the show really held out till the end. And the last episode wasn't the best episode, but it was a good wrap to a season and a good lead into knowing what's going to happen for season 2. Season 2 is going to be an absolute wild ride. It's probably going to rival some of the best seasons, if not be better than the best seasons of Game of Thrones. We are going to see some bonkers dragon fights. I mean, Damon was talking about all the dragons they have. They have at least like 10 plus dragons just on their side. And then the king, Aegon, he has about 3 or 4, maybe 5 of their own dragons. So we're going to see a lot of dragon fights and a lot of war going on. I don't know how long they're going to span this over season 2. I don't know if it's going to be like the first 3 or 4 episodes, or if it's going to be a whole season, and then the last 2 episodes turn into a different page and different lineage of the Targaryens. I really and truly hope they do not make us wait too long for season 2. I know that the Rings of Power is not going to be coming out with their season 2 until at least 2024. I'm really hoping we don't have to wait that long. At the very least, I hope it's like the end of 2023, so a full year from now would be really nice, but I don't know. The thing is with these new shows is they have so much visual effects and so much graphics. These are movies placed into a TV series. So they take more effort than, like, let's say a show, for example, like NCIS or Law and Order. Shows like that can be thrown out weekly because they're easier to make and quicker to make. This is the grand scale of a movie placed into a series. So I understand that it takes longer to make and to edit and to fine tune and just to make a great piece of cinematic entertainment. That being said, I just really hope we don't have to wait too long because I want to see what's going to happen next. I want to see these dragons fight. I'm really excited to see these dragons fight. But I have to say that even though I loved the Rings of Power and I was genuinely shocked with that show, after like rewatching some scenes and going through House of the Dragon again, I'm pretty sure I liked House of the Dragon better. I think I'm going to give House of the Dragon like a 9.5 out of 10. It was so good, and it really redeemed the failure, in my opinion, the failure of the last couple seasons of Game of Thrones. Game of Thrones was not in a good spot after that last season. It was not in a good area. People were very upset. I was definitely upset, and a lot of the people that I talked to about it were upset. And this just came in and said, hey, we still got this. The Game of Thrones realm is still here. And it's based off of books that are already written, so it's hard to mess up. The beginning series of Game of Thrones was based off the books, but once we got to the end, there wasn't anything to base it off of. Screenwriters were just throwing it out there. And then I finally found out that the writer of the Game of Thrones, George R.R. Martin, was not on set and was not allowed on set for the final seasons. So he had no say what was going on. Absolutely insane. But once again, very pleased with how this season went and very pleased in how the last few episodes went. And I'm just super excited for the next season. That is a wrap, and the last I will be talking about House of the Dragon until season 2 is either announced or starts airing. But now on to gaming. Modern Warfare 2 was released a couple weeks ago. I played the campaign, I binged it over a couple nights, and it was fantastic. I was not expecting it to be that good. I hoped it was going to be this good. The Call of Duty game campaigns have not been that good. I know Cold War did not have a campaign. I think it was just multiplayer, and it was just all right. Vanguard actually had a pretty good campaign. But other than that, the last good Call of Duty game was Modern Warfare back in 2019. So Modern Warfare 2 is already picking up what the other 2 Call of Duties these past couple of years have not picked up. As we already know, these current Modern Warfare games are using the same characters from the old classic Modern Warfare games. Captain Price, Sergeant Kyle Garrett, which I think is Gage, and then there's also Ghost, and now in Modern Warfare 2, Soap is back. Soap McTavish, what a character. And this game was really filled with nostalgia as far as characters are concerned, and the levels were very similar to the levels on the old Modern Warfare campaigns. If you played them, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. There are also a lot of name drops, and the biggest villain out of all the Modern Warfare games, General Shepard, is in this game. Totally different character, and what I realized is these games have no correlation to the old ones. They're not prequels. They have a whole different thing in their own. So this is totally different. I will say the way they handled Shepard in this game was just all right. I remember back in the day playing Modern Warfare, the first time I experienced, and everyone experienced, betrayal was in that game, when at the end of Modern Warfare 2, Shepard turns around and shoots Soap. So that's not how this happened in the Modern Warfare 2, obviously. This Modern Warfare 2, the second Modern Warfare 2, funny enough, he gets outed as the bad guy very just naturally. It's not like an abrupt betrayal, which is fine. The way they did it was fine. And it was just a great campaign. It might be one of the best, if not maybe the best. I don't know if I can say that yet. I want to play the older ones to try to compare and see if I like this one better, but it was definitely better than most. At the end of the game, my nerd just kicked in. My inner nerd just got so excited, and the biggest name drop at the end was Makarov, and he's going to be in the Modern Warfare 3. And I can't with these games. They're just so good, and I can't wait for Modern Warfare 3. The second Modern Warfare 3, I guess, is going to be, and we'll see what happens. It's a totally different storyline, totally different setup, all the same characters, but just, an alternate universe, basically. In other news, I want to talk about Doctor Who for a second. I haven't watched Doctor Who for the past 6 seasons. I wasn't a huge fan when they switched from Matt Smith to Peter Capaldi, and then when they got the female actor, there's nothing wrong with her. I just wasn't feeling it. I wasn't a fan of the past 2 Doctors. But then I saw the biggest thing that just came out recently, and if you're a Doctor Who fan, you already know this, and I'm a week late telling you guys about it or just talking about it in general. But as we know, each Doctor goes through a regeneration stage after like 3 seasons. And we've already had David Tennant. He was a few Doctors ago. But when the female Doctor regenerated, it turned back into David Tennant. My mind exploded. I don't even watch it, but I saw the clip and I just went insane. I hope they have him for at least a season. I know they have another Doctor lined up to take the 3-year mantle, but I don't know if he's going to be doing it. I think maybe they'll have him for a season, but I really wish they would have him for another 3. David Tennant's not doing anything important right now. I don't think he has any big projects. I don't know his life, but they could definitely have him on for another 3 seasons. So I hope that's going to be exciting. It definitely looks like it's going to be, and I hope it's good. Also, another Marvel movie is set to be released in February, which is Ant-Man Quantumania, and it looks incredible. The trailer was great, and it looks like they're going to be diving in deep to the multiverse realm. It seems that Scott Lang's daughter is a little older, and she seems just as smart as him, and she's part of the whole crew now. In this trailer, though, they reveal a huge villain right off the bat. Now, in the Loki Season 1, we were introduced to Kang, who is Kang the Conqueror, and we saw that the female Loki variant killed Kang, but he is now going to be in Quantumania. So a variant of himself is there, and it seems like him and Ant-Man are trying to strike a deal, or something's going on within the trailer. Still very confused. Obviously, we'll see in February what's going to happen in the movie, but we know that Kang is supposed to be one of the huge Marvel villains. So he's probably going to be one of the villains in one of the next Avengers movies. And the last and final thing I want to talk about on this episode is something I just saw on my phone a couple minutes ago, is that they're making a sequel to the Joker movie with Joaquin Phoenix. That movie to me was just all right. It wasn't a good Joker movie. I know a lot of people absolutely loved it. But to me, Heath Ledger is the best Joker. He made that role something hard to top. And Joaquin Phoenix was okay. He did a really good job of making him look crazy. But they're having a sequel, and it seems that Lady Gaga is going to be Harley Quinn. So I am very curious to see how this is going to pan out. It looks very interesting. And something I'm curious about is if they're going to tie in Joaquin Phoenix's Joker and now Lady Gaga's Harley Quinn within the Robert Pattinson's Batman. If they're going to have their own little DC universe separate from that. I know that Black Adam came out. It did well. People are mixed feelings about it. I know Henry Cavill's coming back, so we're going to hop into a little DC thing for a second. Henry Cavill's coming back as Superman, so there probably is going to be a Black Adam versus Superman thing. But the one thing I wanted to talk about, and real quick, it was that Lady Gaga is going to be Harley Quinn. Honestly, I feel like she's perfect for the part. She is that quirky and that crazy to be Harley Quinn, so I guess we'll see what happens. But that wraps it up for this episode. Like I said, I might be a couple weeks, maybe 3 at the most with another episode. There really isn't anything out right now. There are some more Star Wars things coming out. Andor is still airing, but I'm not going to really cover that on this podcast anymore unless something really crazy happens within these episodes. Actually, at the time that I'm recording this, it is the week before Halloween, so Tales of the Jedi has not come out yet. So if I do like that, you'll be hearing about it. It won't be on this episode, so maybe next week or a couple weeks later. But other than that, there really isn't anything out that I want to cover. But I thank you for listening. I will catch you guys soon. Please like and subscribe if you're watching this and listening to this on YouTube. And I will see you on the next Finklecast.